So good morning, guys. It's 9:15, Tuesday, February 18th, 2020. For those of you that are following the federal government family law inquiry and have seen the Pauline Hanson 2.5 hour video or whatever it is with Megan Mitchell talking right at the end regarding her recommendations and her experience dealing as the Minister for, I think it's Child Protection or something. The links are on my Facebook page anyway. You guys need to understand, I've been in the system for 20 plus years now. This is my second time around. I have a child the first time round. She's now an adult with 2 children of her own. And I've got 4 others. One's an adult. Another one's going on to be an adult. Then I've got a 15 and going on 14-year-old later this year. Now, you might have seen my last video. I was pretty pissed off and having a big, huge rant because I've had my 15-year-old lad come and have a go at me. You know, it's all my fault. I left and yada, yada, yada. I want to step away from that at the moment. And let's talk about the federal government. Let's talk about DCP. Let's talk about child support, and let's talk about the family court, and child protection as well. So yeah, DCP. What you guys need to understand is these aren't separate entities. They are all part. They're a cog. Each cog greases the other cog in this great big huge machine. It's a $1 billion blood industry cartel. And you're fooling and kidding yourself if you disagree. So DCP, jump in there, listen to one side of the story, and I've experienced it myself. They'll go and talk to whoever's got the children and basically brush it all under the carpet, protect their little bucket of money that's coming through. Child support, they push Centrelink, they push the individual who's got the children, whether it be the mother, whether it be the father. They push them to the limit that they have no choice but to sign to get the child support. And once you're in that system, it's very, very hard to get out of. You've got no say as the non-custodial parent of what happens. They garnish your wages, they raid your bank accounts, and they create debts if you don't jump through the hurdles that they tell you to jump through. Now, they're a law unto themselves. They make up whatever story they need to make up to get you to play the game. In my case, I've had a $60,000 debt created and I refused to pay it. I wasn't working. I had my partner supporting me for quite some time, yet I had a capacity to earn, so therefore they created this debt. Now, on top of that, you've got a federal government with all their ministers, you know, for the individual departments that they're head of. I've contacted the Minister for Child Protection in Western Australia, and the Minister instructed DCP Armidale to go reinvestigate itself. What happens when you ask a department to investigate itself? It's not going to come up and say, oh, we fucked up, we made a big mistake, and we should have really looked at all this evidence that was put before us with the photographs from the Cannington police and stuff like that, for example. They're not going to admit any guilt on their behalf or their wrongdoing because they'll lose their bucket of money. So then you've got the family court itself. Well, the family court don't give a fuck about your children. They don't care, you know, whether they're getting kicked or beat or hit with rope or, made to pull out weeds where there's sticks from junkies, being shoved in the fence line. They're not going to give a fuck about that stuff because all they want you to do is keep injecting your funds into their system. The federal government don't want to see any of this collapse because the last statistics I heard was 21 fathers take their lives due to custody issues and child support issues. That figure has doubled, if not, more, since, all this stuff started unrolling with the family law inquiry. Now, I couldn't tell you what the exact figures are, but this is manslaughter by proxy. So any admission by the federal government of Australia that their family court systems are failing, that their DCP system is failing, that the child support industry is failing, would be admission to manslaughter by proxy. This system is a multi-billion-dollar blood cartel. They are not there to see that your children are given a fair go. They're not there to listen to your children. They're not there to make sure that there's equality. They are there to see that the money keeps coming in bucket by bucket by bucket load. Now, your child support, they sit on that so that they can play the stock exchange and make big, huge money before they hand it on to the other party. And DCP want to make sure that the children are kept where the money's coming in. So they're not going to go there and do anything. How do I know this? 2014, I was in the Family Court of Western Australia. There were some allegations made against me that I was rather violent towards my ex-wife through our marriage. These were put in her affidavits to the family court. And the judge turned around and said, I'm going to subpoena your criminal records, his criminal records, and your partner's criminal records from 2000 to 2014. So the case was adjourned. We came back on the date and 3 sets of paper were put in front of us both. We were told we cannot take a photograph, we cannot take a copy, we cannot take notes from these papers. They're for viewing in front of the magistrate, and that is it. Against my name, there was no criminal record whatsoever, and there continues to be no criminal record whatsoever. And you can run my name wherever you want to, through any department you want. I'll stand by what I say here today. I have no criminal record. The criminal record against my ex, there was 2 marks from me making phone calls to the police, and her partner was longer than my forearm. On that day in the family court, the magistrate threw some orders together and put the kids straight back in to the care where there was a criminal record. Why? My ex-partner had no job, she had no income, she had no assets. Me, on the other hand, I had a career. I had money that they could leech off of me in the way of child support. They knew that I wanted to see my kids. They knew that I was fighting to protect my kids from the credible domestic violence situation that my kids were placed in. So they continued to put the kids straight back in where they knew I would continue to try and fight and get access. So these orders were thrown together. The very next day where I went and picked my kids up for custody access, I was told XYZ happened whilst they were there. I went straight back to the police. I made a report. We went straight back to court. The judge then threw some more orders together after she was told that the other party had breached the previous orders, and nothing had happened. More orders were thrown together, straight back. The orders were breached again. Do you see the pattern here? They don't care about what happens with the children. They only care that you're going to return and you're going to keep coming back to the court because that means more of this to fill their little bucket. They don't want to fuck with the child support bucket because if they take the kids from her, put them in my care, she's got no money to give for child support. She's got no money so that they can invest and make their money. They don't care about the mental issues that they're creating that Megan Mitchell talks about in the Family Inquiry. And on her page, if you go to her Facebook page, she's got a video there about that mental health issues arising in society here in Australia. But they're actually fucking creating them. But they don't want to fuck with these buckets of money that they're pouring into through the family court systems. You know, she tells us that parental alienation doesn't exist. So Miss Mitchell, why is it that I've got a 24-year-old daughter that believes that she's got some sort of mental health issue because she's been alienated from me from the age of 2 years old until she started speaking to me when she was 17. And then we've started forging a relationship 5 years later. Miss Mitchell, why is it that my 4 children I don't get to see? Because I didn't pay to play your game in the family courts. Because your family courts did not work for my children. They worked for you. They worked for the federal government. They worked for your buckets of money that you could play in the stock exchange. Because you're a blood cartel, and for you to turn around and admit we fucked up and we've been fucking up for decades is an admission to guilt of manslaughter to those 21 fathers, whatever the slogan is now, because you've pushed them to the edge where they can't handle it anymore. The family court is there to make sure whoever has the most to lose financially, materially, whatever, will not win. You cannot win against this system. You cannot, and I repeat, you cannot win by playing fair, by playing by their rules. They only care about this. I continue to have a job because I need to survive. But I'm paying for my abuser to abuse my children so that they can come back and abuse me. In this system, you're creating broken children, the next generation, to continue your blood cartel. Because it's all about the cha-ching, cha-ching. You don't care about the children. You just keep protecting yourselves and taking all responsibility off of anything that you've done now and in the future to protect your blood cartel. Lest we forget the Cockman children of Margaret River that were massacred by their grandfather and the family court of Perth, Western Australia, that put out a 19-page statement to the media, distancing themselves from any responsibility whatsoever. What did they say in this 19-page media release? The Perth Family Court, or the family courts of Australia, cannot be held responsible for anything that happens outside. They do not have the means or the people to make sure that their orders are going as planned. Well, that's a lot of responsibility to put onto one industry to make all these great big hairy fairy orders that aren't being followed. And when you do take them back to the family court, they just throw more orders out there and they don't take into account what they've already put in place. They don't follow their subpoenaed evidence. They ignore it completely and then destroy the one person that is there trying to protect their children. You know, I've got a young lad that's now so fucking confused and mixed up and blaming and directing anger in the wrong direction because this system has failed. And then you're turning around and saying that parental alienation doesn't exist? My God, like, you guys, you're so delusional that you can't see what you've done to the next generation. You're not fit for purpose. This whole family inquiry is just smoke and mirrors to protect yourselves. You're making excuses for the things that you guys that have got the responsibility, you're not taking responsibility for what you've put out there. Like, if I was a drug fuck no hope loser, sitting on the dole, or, whatever, like I didn't have an income or I didn't have anything, if I was a derelict, and abusive or had a criminal record, would that make a difference? Would I be, in your eyes, a better father and, suit the purpose? Because every other thing has failed. Everything that I've done, and I've followed, the law, and I've had respect for the family court and the way the process was. But you didn't have respect for me. You didn't have respect for my children. All you had respect for was this. And the fact that you knew would be back. I'm not alone in this. There's hundreds of other men and women that are going through exactly what I've been through. The difference is they all still think that there's hope, and I don't. I think this is like Medusa. We need to take it off at the head. You need to abolish the child support agency and see how quick the other individual is to go and alienate the child. Because you're awarding and rewarding criminals for committing child abuse. Exactly, that's exactly what you're doing. Like, we have to hold down a job and you extort cash from us to go and pay these abusers so our kids can come back and attack us. Come and walk a mile in my shoes. Come and read all my court documents. Come and read the psychologist paper where the child psychologist told me that the ex was actually inside the kid's head telling them that they wouldn't be able to see their friends and they wouldn't be able to go to birthday parties on the weekends, and the time that I had them. It was utter nonsense, but it worked. Anyway, I'm out.